ever, like completely frozen up trying to speak English.
Oh, yeah.
Because I have. It's like my brain just goes blank.
It's so common, though.
Right. And the thing is, you and I are not alone here, right?
Look how many people struggle with this.
Exactly. It's like this fear of speaking English thing. Apparently, it's like a real thing for language learners, but it doesn't mean we have to let it like win. We've got all this research we're going to unpack. I'm excited.
Me too. It's fascinating stuff, actually. Like, it's not enough to just be like, oh, I'm too scared to speak English.
We need to figure out the why.
Exactly. These sources are all about getting granular. Like, what is it specifically that makes you nervous? Is it grammar? Pronunciation?
Oh, starting a conversation with a native speaker.
Yes, that. When you can pinpoint your fear, that's when you can actually do something about it.
Okay, so that makes sense. But then, like, let's say my issue IS grammar. Does that mean I just need to, like, lock myself in a room with a textbook?
Not necessarily. You might find structured grammar practices helpful. There are other approaches too, like for someone more worried about the social aspects, something like language exchange could be a game changer.
Okay, language exchange, I see that everywhere. These sources mention it a lot, but I've also just heard it in general. Like, is it really all that?
Okay, so imagine this. Instead of memorizing verb conjugations from a textbook, you're actually using the language in real time with another person.
Oh, interesting.
You're getting immediate feedback, picking up on all those, everyday expressions, the slang.
Stuff you wouldn't find in a textbook.
Right. And you're getting a little cultural exchange bonus on top of it.
Yeah, that does sound way more motivating than just staring at a page full of grammar rules. And honestly, with apps like, I know these are mentioned a lot in the research tandem in my language exchange. It seems easier than ever to find a language partner these days.
Definitely. Technology is really helping to break down those barriers for sure.
Okay, so speaking of technology, I have to admit, when I first saw exposure therapy as a technique, I had a mini panic attack.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I pictured being like dropped in the middle of Times Square and being told to just start speaking English.
A true trial by fire.
Exactly. But then, luckily, the research clarifies that it's not quite so dramatic.
It's not about just being thrown in the deep end. The key word here is gradual. It's more about like slowly turning up the volume on your comfort zone.
I like that.
So you might start by practicing by yourself, then maybe have conversations with friends who are also learning English. And then eventually you work your way up to more challenging situations.
Oh, okay. So it's like leveling up in a video game, as opposed to like immediately being thrown into the boss fight.
Exactly. And what's really interesting is all this research on VRE, virtual reality exposure therapy.
I've heard of that.
Have you?
Vaguely, honestly, my brain went straight to like The Matrix or something.
Well, not quite. It's pretty high-tech, Joe. Imagine you put on a headset and you're suddenly in a bustling cafe in London chatting with locals. That's VRET.
Oh, wow.
It creates these really realistic simulations so you can practice your English without the fear of judgment in all sorts of situations.
So you get to like stumble and learn in the safety of virtual reality.
Exactly. It takes the edge off those initial forays into speaking. But, all the cool tech in the world aside, our mindset plays a huge role too. We can't forget about that.
So true. We can have all the best apps and techniques, but if our mindset's not right, it's like, what's the point?
It's huge, yeah. And actually, these sources are full of insights about this. Mindfulness, relaxation techniques,
Yeah.
things like that can be so helpful for managing those, oh my gosh, I have to give a presentation in English nerves.
Totally. But easier said than done, right? In those moments when you feel that panic rising, what can you actually do? Like, what are some practical steps?
Well, there are a few things. Deep breathing, for one. Like,
Right.
it sounds so simple,
Yeah.
but it really does work. It's like hitting the pause button on your nervous system.
Yeah.
Then there's visualization, which is interesting.
Oh, like picturing yourself having a successful conversation.
Exactly. Like really embodying that feeling of confidence.
Interesting.
It can actually kind of trick your brain,
Yeah.
And then there's also progressive muscle relaxation, which again sounds very fashy, but it's really just about releasing that physical tension that comes with anxiety.
Right.
It's about finding what works for you.
Totally. And, on that note, there was one technique that came up in the research, and I was kind of like, not sure about that one. It's the whole self-recording and analysis thing. Do people actually like listening to themselves talk?
It can be a little awkward at first,
Yeah.
it's true. But I think of it like this. It's like having a personal language coach in your pocket,
Ooh, I like that.
24/7.
Okay, that's a much better way to think about it than listen to yourself make mistakes. So, okay, we're recording ourselves. What are we actually analyzing here? What are we listening for?
Well, the research points to a few key things.
Hmm.
Fluency, for one. Are you speaking smoothly? Are there a lot of pauses and hesitations? And then there's accuracy. Any grammar slip-ups, misused words, that kind of thing. And then, of course, pronunciation.
Oh, see, that last one is my downfall. English pronunciation makes no sense half the time.
But here's where things get really cool. This is what I love about this research. They talk about these AI-powered pronunciation
Wait,
tools.
hold on. AI pronunciation coaches? What?
Yeah, they use really advanced speech recognition technology to, like, analyze your pronunciation, and I mean really detailed stuff.
No way.
Yeah, they can tell you if you're stressing the wrong syllable,
What?
if your intonation's off, if you're, mixing up similar sounds,
Right.
things that a lot of language learners wouldn't catch on their own. Small talk and ELSA were two that were mentioned.
That's incredible. So it's like having a personalized pronunciation tutor in your pocket.
Exactly.
Wow.
And I think this all goes back to, we were talking about finding what works for you. Some people, they love language classes.
Mm-hmm.
Others, they do better with immersive experiences like the language exchange we were talking about. And some might find that these tech tools are really the missing piece of the puzzle.
Right. It's about having options, experimenting, and figuring out what helps you learn best.
For sure. And, speaking of language exchange, I think what's really interesting about all this, and these sources kind of opened my eyes to this, it's not just about, finding someone to practice with. It's more than that. It's about tapping into this whole global community of learners.
Right.
Imagine connecting with people from all over the world, all walks of life.
Because you're united by this shared goal of learning English.
Exactly. It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It's funny because this fear of speaking English, it can feel so isolating. It's like you're the only one going through it. But everything we've talked about today is kind of the opposite of that. It's connection.
Yeah.
It's community.
Yeah, for sure.
Shared experiences. It's like a relief almost, knowing you're not alone in this.
It really is. And, it just highlights how many resources are out there, how many communities, people, even AI coaches ready to, help us every step of the way. You're never really on your own with this stuff.
Exactly. And I hope that's something that our listeners are really taking away from this. We've covered a lot of ground today. I mean, we talked about zeroing in on your specific fears, the power of language exchange, mindfulness, AI tools. I mean, even virtual reality came up.
It's a lot.
It's a lot to take in, but it's exciting because it means there are so many options.
Exactly. It's not about trying to do everything at once. It's about just taking that first step.
Right.
That one action that, speaks to you and your learning style.
Yes. And that's what I want to leave you with today. What's one thing, just one thing that sparked your curiosity? What are you feeling inspired to try? Maybe it's downloading a language exchange app. Maybe you want to test out like a 5-minute mindfulness exercise. Maybe you're going to hit record and talk to yourself in English for the first time. Whatever it is, take that step. You might surprise yourself.